Hey guys, Mr. B here. So today I've got this 2006 Ford Crown Victoria. I'm going to use this as an example of how to change out your vehicle's fuel filter. So the reason why fuel filters are important is because they literally filter the fuel going to the engine from the fuel tank. A lot of cars nowadays don't have fuel filters. Some cars do, some cars don't. It just depends on what you're working on. If your vehicle does have a serviceable fuel filter, it is recommended to change that on a somewhat regular basis. A lot of people forget about them though, and then when they clog up from the dirt and the grime and whatever else, whatever other imperfections and impurities get into the fuel, when they do clog up, they end up causing issues with drivability. The engine might stall, it might run rough, and you might not have the correct fuel pressure. So I got done changing out the fuel tank and the fuel pump on this car. You guys can check that video out as well if you'd like. So at the same time, I figure it might be a good idea to just change out the fuel filter. Typically, your vehicle's fuel filter is going to be underneath the car along the frame rail by the fuel line. Some vehicles, the fuel filter might even be up under the hood. On this vehicle, there's our fuel filter. You can tell that it's very rusty, very crusty. If I had to guess, that's probably the original fuel filter. And it's definitely time for a change. So for this quick connect style, usually you're supposed to be able to push on that tab and then the connector comes out. These usually get rusted in place with the line. I ran into a lot of issues with the fuel tank job, so I'm going to try and push on it and see what happens. All right, so just as suspected, I did have to break that clip to get it to come loose because it doesn't really want to move after, 20 years. Metal clamp piece here is going to have to come off. That's for the quick disconnect on that end. I would really like to get this piece out first before taking this piece out. So I'm going to see what happens, and of course be mindful that there is gasoline in here when you go and do this. The way that it works is this piece pushes into that little tab right there. There's like 4 tabs inside of there. And then it releases the quick lock and you can pull the fuel line off. There we go, got it out. All right, so the main thing is you want to make sure that the filter is orientated in the right direction. There's an arrow right there for flow. The fuel, of course, flows from the tank through the fuel filter going that way, and then through the fuel line up to the engine. So I definitely want to install it like that. Okay. The thing too is this clip that it comes with. I did have to do a little bit of work to it. I had to shave it down on this side to get rid of this tab here and also make it a little bit smaller. I shaved it down on that side, and then I also shaved it down on these 2 sides here. I just took it to my bench grinder and did it very slowly and carefully. And then I had to cut off this tab here up on top in order to get it to all fit in place. And right now I've got it in place to where that filter does not come out. For this connector here, you literally just push it into place, nice and quick and easy. Put that piece on when you're done, and I'm just going to go ahead and fit this filter back up into here where it goes. Well, unfortunately I was wrong. This piece is most likely necessary. It probably holds that connector in place. Usually I don't have this many issues with these quick connects. Usually they just come apart pretty easy and they don't really fall apart. This one's just giving me grief, so it's a good example of some of the worst of the worst. All right, so one thing I noticed, I got this O-ring here on the ground. It might have fallen out as I was taking this apart, but that definitely seals the fuel. Everything back in place. I got the O-ring in there. There's another white seal behind it. And then that was kind of hard to see it, but that black piece that came off with the old filter, I was able to push that in with my screwdriver, and then I pushed on this connector all the way in until it bottomed out on this lip here, and I heard a click. So that means that that piece went back in place. I'll tell you what, this is the fuel filter from hell, but it's a great example of what could go wrong. All right, so here we are. I got the car running, and there's no more leaks. Obviously, I got that little lock tab back in there. I pulled on the fuel line a little bit. It doesn't want to come out, so it's locked in place. All right, so slight issue here. I had it all back together. Everything at the fuel filter end was fine, and I kept seeing a little bit of fuel forming on the end of this line here. I would wipe it off, you know, with a rag, and it would still seep a little bit. So at this little connection point here, where the steel fuel line goes into this nylon fitting, there is rust built up. You can kind of see it inside of there. There's rust built up inside this. I think it's coated in plastic, and it's just bad enough to where it seeps a little bit of fuel, and I'm gonna have to repair that. So I cut the line off with my little mini hacksaw, and I've gained access to the fuel line. The fuel line is fine from here all the way through there and up to the fuel tank. There's just that one spot that had a little bit of rust inside of there causing a leak. So what I have here is a nylon quick disconnect. It's very similar to a shark bite for plumbing. It does fit onto the steel line. We're gonna see if it works. It should. What I had to do was I had to grind down, sand down the painted rubber coating off of the line to make it a nice, just, you know, OEM style steel line. And I pushed that right on the end of it, so that way it had a, you know, nice clean connection there. This is the kit that I purchased at the parts store. Quick disconnect kit for Ford's 5/16 line. This is probably the one I'm gonna want, and it has a nice curve to it as well. All right, so here's the solution. I was able to go and buy a new line kit. It's a 5/16 fitting with a 5/16 line, that nylon line there, and then I was able to take the steel line and I was able to tweak it and bend it this way to get it straightened out. And I put this quick connect on there. Like I said, it's very similar to a shark bite. I mean, I can wiggle it and the whole line moves, and there's no leaks, there's no kinks. It's all good to go. So this was the literal fuel filter from hell. If you guys found this video helpful, please go ahead and like and subscribe.